Payments Podcast from Bottomline Technologies.
Greetings and welcome to the Payments Podcast, where the number one story for this episode comes out of important developments taking place in the European Union. My name is John Gaffney. I'll be your host for a discussion centered around the long-awaited proposals for regulating instant payments among the EU member states, both current and future. Our format today will be just a slight departure from normal. I'm going to take a few minutes to provide some background on these proposed changes. Then we're going to turn to our subject matter expert for commentary. That expert is Bottomline's Director of Global Marketing for Financial Messaging, Fred Viard. Frederick has been on the case at Bottomline since 2013 and is one of the most knowledgeable experts in the business of the complex world of cross-border payments. Fred, welcome to the podcast.
So thank you very much, John. Happy to be here. Hello, everyone, and very, very happy to discuss this important topic about the instant payment coming a reality in Europe.
All right, great. Now, as I said before we get to Fred's observations, let's recap these changes. They were announced on October 26th, and the commentary is becoming fast and furious about it. I mean, according to the EU Finance Commission, about 10% of credit transfers in the EU are processed as instant payments. For cross-border payments, it's even lower. Why? Interoperability and confidence. The payment service provider of the payer and the payee must both use instant payments technology for the transaction to be successful. And many on both sides of that equation have bristled at adopting the technology for that lack of commitment. So no surprise then that a third of EU PSPs don't offer instant payments. And unfortunately, the consumers and businesses that could benefit from the immediacy of those payments and the resulting liquidity have been left in the lurch. Now, the current state of EU regulations rests on the 2012 SEPA regulations, which are obviously in need of an update. Now that update is here. There's four main aspects. One, it would make instant payments universally available in euros by 6 months after these proposals are approved. Two, it would make these payments more affordable, mandating that they stay in line with pricing models for non-instant transfers. Three, it would implement an obligation similar to the UK confirmation of payee, which requires PSPs to match the international bank account number to the name of the beneficiary. Four, it requires PSPs to verify their clients against the EU sanctions list on a daily basis. Okay, too much talking from me, but Fred, let's get to your general take on these proposals. Do you think they'll do enough to move the needle for instant payments in the EU?
I think it's very important to continue improving the marketplace. Any mature marketplace need to continue improving and paving the road for the futures to have more financial services available, more speed, more visibility. So since we have still a fragmented landscape in the EU, because this is a cross-border, because you have several countries involved in the EU landscape, but you have one single currency. But despite this one single currency, the fragmentation between the various members is still here, and then it prevents to have an homogeneized landscape that help to drive really instant payment across the EU. So if we want to have something which is much more harmonized, we need to push a bit the marketplace to adopt the new technology and the new methods such as instant payment. So I think it will really help to move towards more homogenization across the EU landscape, and to benefit to all the players across the EU to have this instant payment landscape as one single instant payment area. So I think it's a really good push in order to keep the marketplace competitive, innovative, and to remove some of the fragmentations to have really a European market as a single marketplace where everyone can have an instant payment method available for any type of payments they would like to make.
Okay, well said. Now, nobody has objected specifically to the proposal. It's been well received. However, Payments Europe, which represents a lot of credit card companies, a lot of banks, has expressed concerns about the timeline. Now, in your opinion, are those concerns justified?
I think if we look backwards, the the origin of the instant payment in Europe is dated 2017, so it's not new news. So it's something which already exists. So the marketplace had some times to accommodate that. So we are not starting from scratch here. We have the basis already available to make instant payment. The regulation here is to push everyone to adopt the instant payment across Europe. So I believe that the the time frame is stressed. I agree, because if you have to do everything today, I think it's a bit of a lot of things to do, because instant payment is going with a revisiting of the infrastructure, the platform infrastructure, the payment infrastructure, because you have to go very fast, 10 seconds, but you also need to be available on a 24/7 basis. So it's a crucial element to remain available at any time. So this is a bit of a change in the way the systems are operating today. So I think it's really important to remain in that space and to be able to cope with these requirements.
Now, you mentioned in the past that this is also an opportunity to get ready, to have a checklist and make sure your bank or even business is agile enough to adopt these regulations after they're approved. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Going back to the questions about the time frame, I think the
Yeah.
time frame is something which is stress, as I said, but I think this is something which is you can accommodate with that. But on the other end, I think that the point around the time frame is has to be seen also with the delay that will be put until the law will enter into force. Because here is the proposal which has been announced. Then you have the elapsed times to approve it that will last between 6 to 12 months, and then you have 6 months to be able to receive the instant payment, and then you will need in the next phase to be able to send and receive instant
I
payment.
see.
So
Okay.
we are in a time frame which is around between now and 2 years that will drive us towards something which is 2025, which is aligned with most of the marketplace in the world who are moving towards an instant payment environment by 2025. So reducing or let's say at the contrary, expanding this timeline could drive the marketplace to be late compared to the rest of the world.
Okay, we don't want to see that. And you've talked about the advantages here, which we may be overlooking a little bit. I mean, I haven't heard a lot about real-time settlements. Can you talk about that a little bit?
A lot of these instant payment systems over the world, they are working in a deferred mode. So then when you make a payment, you have let's say an interim period where the payment is covered by the bank, and then the settlements occur, let's say 1, 2, 3, 5 times a day. Within the European context, you have TIPS, who has set up, which is the clearing, the central clearing. They have set up a clearing for instant payment in real time, meaning that as soon as you have made your payment, this is not only the payment which is covered by the bank, but the reality is that the money has moved from one account to the other. So this immediacy of the settlement will probably help to increase the limit of this payment. But on the other hand, we will need to have all the other schemes, even those who are deferred in their settlement, to be still available and to be still part of the game. Because if we want to have this EU marketplace being reachable everywhere from an IP instant payment perspective, we will definitely need to have a maximum reach in terms of the number of IBANs that you can reach. So it's not only about one system, which is a real-time settlement, but it is about all the other schemes which are around that that should be part of the game if we want to have a maximum reach of all of that. So in instant settlement will probably help to have a higher limit, but the other schemes have still a play to they have a place to be in that context, because they will help to reach a maximum number of IBAN across the EU landscape.
Interesting. So, regardless of the timeline, there's going to be a lot of changes in a relatively short period of time. So, let's talk about compliance. How would you counsel banks in the EU to keep pace with these changes? What do they need from a partner?
I think the compliance can be seen at several levels, but I would say since this becomes a mandate, they will really need to move forward to cope with this mandate of being able to support instant payment. So they will need to revisit their infrastructure, their architecture, and then here let's say the technology providers such as us, we can really help, because we can help to sort the problem around the 24/7, around the various steps that you need to process when you are processing an instant payment. We can manage also the standard, because ISO 20022 is the de facto standard to be used in instant payments. So we can manage that. The life cycle of the various messages that are exchanged to ensure an instant payments to be settled properly. So all of these mechanics which goes around the instant payment, it's something that we can really help the bank with, because we can really focus on the parts which are required to manage and to process an instant payment, while the bank will focus on its core business, which is around everything else around accounting and all of that. So they can really rely on a third party to help them to plug the gap in terms of availability, speed, and access to the various schemes, because you need to connect to these various schemes. So the technology provider can really help the bank to complement their landscape, their ecosystems, to be part of this instant payment global ecosystem across the EU.
Very well said. We've talked in the past where you've likened instant payments to 5G. I love that analogy. Could you talk about that a little?
Yeah, so I mentioned that because when we talk about instant payment, you have some people asking, but do we need instant payment? So as I said, I think instant payment is not only about instant payment, it's also about continuing improving the marketplace, paving the road for innovation and for a more competitive landscape. But to the question, do we need instant payment? Of course, instant payment will not solve all the business cases on all the use cases. Some payments will still remain via a standard RTGS rail for some reason, and some other payments will move toward instant payment. But the comparison with the 5G is that, do we need 5G? I think we can watch TV via the standard telco channel that we have today. But if you think in the future, you will have the Internet of Things, meaning that you will have much more players connected to the Internet. So at that point, the 5G will become a very nice tool to have to allow all these systems to talk together. So this is a bit the same for instant payment. It's not only about solving an issue today to have this immediacy in terms of payment, but it's also about future proofing the marketplace and being sure that we are building the future, which will become definitely much more real time.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Very good. So here's the killer question, Fred. If you had a room full of 500 banking execs from the EU, what are 2 or 3 things you would tell them they need to do right now as these regulations play out? How do they get ready?
So I would say the first thing is to make sure that they have the checklist, so they know where they are going. So to make sure that they understand what are the requirements, they understand how ready they are in front of these changes. So that would be really the first thing, is build this checklist, make sure you are ready. The second one is to really ensure that, operationally speaking, what they will build for instant payments will allow them to keep to provide a competitive price for this instant payment, because otherwise, if the operational model is not fit for purpose, the price will explode. So we don't want that. So it's about having something that will ensure that the cost will remain affordable with an environment and ecosystem that can help to reduce cost. And the last one, which is for me a key aspect for any type of financial transaction, will be around risk and fraud. So making sure that the principle that you will use, that you will set up to prevent fraud, are efficient enough. And interestingly, when you look at the European regulation, there is a change, because before that, let's say usually when you want to prevent some fraud, you have several tools, including sanction screening, which is about being sure that you have not blacklisted people into your transaction. These sanction screening has changed with the new regulation in the EU, because it's not required anymore to filter any single transaction. At the Not at the contrary, but the principles are different, and it is about having a KYC on a daily basis for every player in the chain, plus to have a control of the IBAN beneficiary check to make sure that you will send the money to the right account and to the right beneficiary. So the principles are slightly different, and I think this is something that has to be considered carefully by the banks, because this is not the usual way of doing the screening. This is a different way, and then this is important to have that in mind when you build your risk prevention system in the context of instant payment in the EU.
Very well said. That's good. That's a wrap. That's our payments podcast. This episode is titled EU Takes a Step Toward an Instant Future. Fred, I want to thank you for helping us here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's Payment Podcast. EU Takes a Step Toward an Instant Future. Please listen to us on SoundCloud, Apple, or Spotify, where you get your podcasts. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Payments Podcast from Bottom Line Technologies.